What's up, everybody? My name is Amy, and this is the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast. My name is Amy. Welcome to my show. I hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. So much to talk about this evening. So stick around. I will be discussing the Leilani Simon trial. Leilani Simon is on trial for the murder of her little boy, Quinton Simon, in Savannah, Georgia. So I'm going to be talking about that and several other things. But please, if this is your first time listening, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Help me grow my little channel. I am a nonprofit channel. I do not make money off this. I simply have had a passion for true crime for over 30 years and followed many cases, studied many cases. And this is just a passionate volunteer thing for me. And I've advocated for many victims and many causes. And so please, everyone, hi DJ, hi old lady O, I'm so glad y'all are here with me tonight. Before we get into talking about Leilani, I wanted to just give you a few updates on me personally and in the world of true crime. First of all, when I last spoke with y'all, I did my first car live, and everyone that does car lives, and that was actually my very first car live from the parking lot of the neurology clinic, and I was talking about the disappearance of Morgan Nick, a little girl that disappeared here in Arkansas back in the mid '90s, and which has been a case for me that has meant so much to me in advocating for that little girl and seeking justice for her. And, sometimes justice is delayed. It's not always justice denied, but sometimes it's just justice delayed. But thankfully, over the course of time, we've had updated technology that is now helping to solve cases that we couldn't solve back in the 90s and the 80s and things like that. And, we have so much new technology, new DNA type testing and stuff. And, that some of these, people like the Innocence Projects try to, help out in people that, still claim to be innocent and whatnot. I wish the Innocence Project would hurry up and get into helping someone who's actually on death row that I'm not quite sold on her guilt, and that's Darlie Routier. I wish she could get the same courtesy as Scott Peterson has gotten. You know, if Darley's guilty, she's guilty, but I don't believe she is, and she is somebody that I have advocated for. I think there's a whole lot more to what happened the night her two little boys were stabbed and she was attacked. So, but just to let you all know, I had those injections done in my head uh, from the neurologist. I had Botox injections, not like your regular Botox, that you get for, beauty wise, but for to my treatment for chronic headaches that I've had since I was in the 10th grade. And I this it's been kind of like a 51-49, pros and cons, good and bad. I have had to dealt with some, what do you call, like I said, I've had to deal with the pros and cons of it. I've had some side effects from it, and that I haven't really been enjoying. But I just have to take the bad with the good at this point, because I'm limited at what kind of treatment I can get at this point. They've cut most all anybody that has any type of chronic pain in their body has been cut off from narcotics and opiates here in the United States. It's become a big problem, and don't even get me off on the subject. Also, please keep my little Ellie Mae in your thoughts and prayers. She was diagnosed with a heart murmur, and I also had to take her back a couple of days ago to have a tooth pulled. Um, that one of her bottom canine teeth had come loose, and it was bad, and it was infected, and so I had to carry her back and had that tooth pulled, and they gave her a shot of antibiotics. But oh, speaking of what, she's heard her name and she woke up a little bit. She's really weak, and she's tired, and she's sick, and it's been round the clock for me to care for her. I don't let her out of my sight. Um, I mean, I have to. She sleeps here in the bed next to me in her bed, and I put her down to drink and eat, and I've had some trouble these last few days trying to get her to take her medicine because she had stopped eating food, but now I've been puree. I've actually even taken soft food and actually pureed it for her. I think having this tooth pulled too is caused a little confusion for her, and but like I said, she's tired and she's weak, and I've had her for over 15 years, and she's my baby angel, and I'm not ready for God to take her. I'm not ready to let her go. And I lost my other dog 2 years ago, and I'm just not ready. I know she's tired. I'm tired too. And I just I can't let her go yet. And so I'm just taking things day by day, and enjoying what little time I have left with her, and taking care of her. But I have to pick her up and put her down to drink, and it's constant encouraging her to drink, and try to eat a little bit, and get down to potty, and things like that. So but just keep her, in your thoughts and prayers. Like I said, I know she's tired, but I'm just not. I can't let go of her just yet. I'm not ready to let go of her just yet. And you know, you look at somebody like Leilani Simon and what she did to Quinton, and it makes you absolutely sick. But you know what? It doesn't matter to me if you have four legs or you have two legs. Your child is your child, whether you gave birth to them, whether you adopted them, whether they're a feline or a canine or big or small, or you know, you just they're your children. And in this case, little Ellie is she's my grand dog. She was given to my youngest daughter for her birthday when she was a little girl, and she moved off and got married, and I said, you can go, but you're not taking Ellie. So she I took custody of the child and of the grandchild, and she's been with me, but she's just a sweet little baby angel, and she's been through so much in her little life, and it's just been really, really hard on me. Um, in the world of true crime, let's get into the world of true crime. Speaking of bad mothers, Susan Smith. I spoke about Susan Smith here a few weeks ago. She is up for parole, and the people that are close to her had already come out and said no. She is in no way, shape, fashion, or form rehabilitated. She has had several infractions in her years while she's been in prison, drug use, and of course she's got men and boyfriends in and whatnot. But she did have a parole hearing coming up. Unfortunately, she got in trouble again. She was conversing with some documentary people, and they were paying her uh, to do a documentary about her crime. And on that subject, I mean that right there, just while we're on the subject, I want to bring up the Son of Sam law because, excuse me, I've heard the Son of Sam law brought up several times, and actually, uh, Nancy Grace brought it up today. She and y'all, I love Nancy Grace. I do. I love that woman. I've been watching for her for years and years, and I appreciate everything she does for in the name of justice. But I feel like sometimes being a crime victim herself and being a prosecutor, sometimes she forgets that we like it or not, uh, defendants have rights, suspects have rights, inmates have rights. And she did an kind of an update on Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias, I devoted almost 3 years of my life to that case, and that bitch about drove me crazy. That was another case that when I got done with that case after almost 3 years, I had to completely walk away from true crime and from any cases for like 2 or 3 months after that, because I was so mentally exhausted. Uh, excuse me just a minute. I'm gonna here. Let me put you down, honey. Sorry, I needed to put Ellie down so she could potty and get a little bite to eat and something to drink. Like I said, I'm having to do everything for her and basically care for her like an infant. So, um, but Nancy's all up in the air about Jodi Arias selling her artwork online. Now, this has been going on since the trial. She's been doing this artwork and selling uh this artwork, ever since the beginning. And, you know, Nancy brought up, how is she, why is she able to do this and how is she able to do that? And her guest, explained to her about the Son of Sam law and how it was challenged and went up to the Supreme Court and stuff, and it was deemed unconstitutional. But different states have sort of tweaked the law, and so the Son of Sam law is in effect in some states and in some cases, but apparently in South Carolina, uh, she is that is forbidden, and she is forbidden in the state of South Carolina to profit from her crime. Susan Smith is. However, Jodi Arias is not. And this is where we get into different states having different laws. Here in Arkansas, I know quite a bit about, the prison system and whatever. And here in Arkansas, inmates who they have to earn it. They have to earn what's called like a crafter's card, like a DI. I don't even know what you want to. There's a word for it. It's a crafter's card or whatever, but it allows these inmates to do arts and crafts. Some even have privileges of being able to do woodwork. Some have privileges of being able with art pencils and colors and things like that. I know a guy who makes fishing lures in prison and sells them. Those expensive fishing lures that you're going to go to the Bass Pro Shop and pay $30 for, he makes those, hand makes them. And he's serving life without parole in the Arkansas Department of Corrections. So these inmates are able to sell the things that they make, and visitors, who are visiting their loved ones here in the Arkansas prisons, you have a little store, and you have inmates that do drawings and make cards and sell them, and all bracelets and necklaces and earrings and just all sorts of arts and crafts stuff. And that's what they make money from, to buy their honey buns. Of course, I know groceries have gone up, but $3,000 honey buns, yeah, she's won $3,000 for her portraits and stuff. But technically, Jodi is not making money off of her crime. She's making money off of her notoriety and who she is, and people want murderabilia, or they want something that was drawn by a serial killer or owned by a serial killer. There's a big market for murderabilia, and I know that John Wayne Gacy and Charlie Manson and several people have sold. Some of their stuff has gone for thousands of dollars on the internet and stuff. So, but as long as she's actually not profiting off of Travis or the crime or any of that. So, but Susan Smith, now that's what you call profiting off your crime. She was selling her story to a documentary film crew and making money off of it. Now, of course, a documentary film crew is what saved the life of Damien Echols, who was sentenced to death row in the West Memphis 3 case. Saved the life of Jason Baldwin and Jesse Miss Kelly. Because Arkansas allowed HBO, Quinton County allowed them to come into the courtroom and film the trial and everything. And then, once things came about the way they did, then that's when, they ended up filming 3 more documentaries plus a movie based off of Marl Everett's book. Damien has written several books. Jason has written a book, about their time in prison, and Damien did one book, his and Lori's love letters and all that kind of stuff. But hey, what money he got, he deserved it, because he ain't gonna get no repayment. Ain't none of them gonna get any repayment from the state of Arkansas. That's what the Alfred plea was all about. That Alfred plea kept him from suing the state of Arkansas, and Arkansas screwed them. But yeah, that's another subject. But I wanted to bring that up, in talking about, and talk a little bit about the Son of Sam law. Oh, did you, DJ? Well, now I looked at them too, and were some of her earlier ones were pretty expensive. Now, I don't know. I haven't gone actually and looked to see what Nancy meant by $3,000 portraits or whatever. But so be it. Now, guards expressing interest in her artwork and buying from her. Yeah, I don't know about all that, but there's quite a few more stories about some of the things that she gets away with in prisons, that Jody gets away with. So anyway, but I just wanted to bring that up. So I want to get into talking about the Leilani Simon trial. After being gone all summer and being out of the loop of everything, I had no idea that her trial was even coming up. And it kind of went unnoticed, because from what I can see on YouTube, amongst everybody, all anybody cares about is talking about the drama with Bullhorn Betty and the Sebastian Rogers case. That's all anybody cares anything about talking about. Well, have we forgotten about justice for Quinton? Like I said, it's just a matter of me being out of the loop, and like I said, having to take a break from these parents murdering their sweet baby children. I've been watching this, God forbid, since the 90s. And so, Leilani, you can thank Miss Susan Smith for setting the bar for the trouble that you're in. You want to know why the cops knew from the get-go that you were guilty? Why the cops kept interrogating you? Because they knew from the minute it all happened that something was fishy. And while they were surely out looking for Quinton, just like in the Susan Smith case, they knew within the first few days what had happened, and all they had to do was find his little body and prove it. And now that the trial has started, looking back, there was a lot of complaint about Chatham County and the Chatham County Sheriff and whatnot. I feel like that's the only mistake, the biggest mistake that they made. Oh, she does have one for 1,600. Oh, okay. Um, that was the biggest mistake that Chatham County made, was coming out to the public and saying, we know Quinton is deceased. We know his mother's guilty. She is our prime suspect. But then it takes them a month before they can arrest her, because they had to find Quinton's remains, you know, so that they had proof, basically, that the child was deceased. And, that's just how they, figured it all out. But them announcing it all to the public and then letting her run around for a month and not arresting her, that was what outraged people. That was what outraged people and caused so much drama and whatnot. Because that, I just think that they should have maybe kept that one to themselves, at least until they found Leilani. But maybe they wanted it out there in public to keep that stress on her, that they know. I'm not sure, but her trial, some interesting revelations have come about that I didn't know about previously. And it has given me um, a, how do I say this? How do I word this? This information sort of caused the light bulb to go off in my head, basically, and made me think about everything and put into perspective what I believe happened that night. And it's something that I've seen way too many times. Um, you know, especially here in the South. Um, we have, you know, a lot of teenage pregnancy. We have a lot of broken homes, and we have a lot of drug use, alcoholism, addiction, poverty, you know, living off welfare, food stamps, you know, just things that when you put a lot of these issues all into one bowl, it's a recipe for disaster, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Um, what we've learned about in the first few days of this trial that I did not know about previously is that Leilani had a tooth pulled, allegedly. And today, her ex-boyfriend, Danny Youngkin, was on the stand, and he verified that he did take her to the dentist and she had a tooth pulled. I was waiting for that. I was like, okay, can anybody actually verify that she went to an actual dentist and had a tooth pulled and all that kind of stuff? And for some reason, her having that tooth pulled sort of made the light bulb go off in my head and painted a whole scenario for me. And I want to talk about that scenario. This is in no way excuses Leilani for what she did in any way, shape, fashion, or form. There's absolutely no excuse. Drugs or not, I was under the influence of drugs, alcohol, pain pills. My tooth was hurting. I was tired, whatever. None of it is an excuse for what she did. It just puts everything into perspective that I have been able to paint a picture of things that I have seen over the years through people that I know, through friends, and things like that. You have a young couple, and from what I understand, these two barely, this girl, she's got 3 children with 3 different baby daddies, which I can't talk. I have 2 kids by 2 different dads. So what? I'm not judging her for that. However, 23 years old, she has, I'm not for sure I don't remember how old the oldest boy was, but he was toddler age too. You have the oldest boy, then you have Quinton, the middle child, and then the newborn little girl that she had with Danny. And it reminds me of an old friend of mine. When I met her back in 1987, she was 19 years old and had 3 girls, ages 1, 2, and 3, and they were heathens. Her house was so filthy. And I mean, they lived in some dumps. We all did back in those days. But, and you take a young mother now, and now you've got a young father. To me, it sounds like he once he ended up with her and she ended up pregnant and had the baby and whatnot, he just like sort of felt stuck, so to speak, with her, and things had almost just become unbearable. And it was a constant he said, she said, this one, she's accusing him of cheating, he's accusing her of cheating, you're lying, he's lying, back and forth. Young adult drama. We've all been there. My gosh. Let me tell you, I've been in some real winter relationships. That's why I'm single today. And you will probably never see another man in my bed again. But you have alcoholism. Uh, this guy, Danny, has, admitted that he loved his Fireball. Back in the 90s, I used to drink hot damn 100 proof straight out of the bottle. So and that's just about as potent as Fireball. That's basically the same thing. And yeah, you'll be lit with that stuff. Trust me. So you've got alcoholism, you've got drugs, you've got pills, you've got 2 young people living in their mama's house, and there's a bad family dynamic, whatever relationship there is between Leilani and her mother, which I don't think was very stable. And her mother, had taken custody of the kids from her and was telling her and Danny to get out. And he verified today that they had been told to get out and was trying to save up some money to get them a place and whatnot, when all this happened. Then you've got this toothache. Yep, young people with drugs and alcohol make bad choices, and that's one thing I have always prided myself in is during the night, throughout the 90s when I was working in clubs and I was hanging out in clubs, and I mean, I lived in a bar. If I wasn't working, I was in the bar drinking. So, and this was from Wednesday to Sunday every week for years. But I always kept, well, my long time best friend will tell you that I was never truly an addict. I put stuff down just as easily as I picked it up. But I always I had a firm line that I had drawn between party life and home life. At home, I had a child and later two children and a sick, disabled, bedridden mother to take care of. And I was very, like I said, I drew that a firm line in between that. What if I did drugs or I drank or whatever, I did it away from my house. I did not allow alcohol in my house. I did not allow drugs in my house. Did not allow uh, guns in my house. Any boyfriend that I had, and most all of them were military, so they had guns. Um, had to keep their guns on the top shelf out in the garage, unloaded, with the bullets completely in a different place. I was never drunk or under the influence of drugs around my children. Like I said, I always kept that life separate from my home life, and I knew where to draw the line. And I just had certain quirks about things that I didn't want to combine the two because I knew what dangerous outcomes there could be, you know, kid but even now we had, of course, prescription drugs in my house because, as I said, my mother was disabled and bedridden, so she was on very powerful pain medication and opiates and narcotics and all muscle relaxers, all sorts of stuff. But from the time my children were young, you could tell my youngest daughter, um, Chauncey, go in there and get grandma one of her pain pills, or go in there and get grandma one of her muscle relaxers. She was 3 years old and could differentiate which pill was which and knew which pill was which and would go in the bedroom and get that pill and bring it to her. That was something that I never had to, my kids just understood it. I guess because they were, like I said, raised their entire life, in a house where someone had to take who was sick. And and my kids knew their grandma was sick and that she had to take those medications and stuff, but they knew not to touch them. They knew not to take them or anything like that. So that's one thing I do pride myself. However, a lot of people that I know have not always done that. And then in this case, Leilani and Danny certainly did not. But I feel what truly happened that night. And as I said, I've seen this before. You throw all of these circumstances into a pot, as if you were making a pot of soup, and you take young love and addiction, uh, being sleepy, uh, a toothache, and God forbid, if any of you have ever had your wisdom teeth pulled, or even had a bad tooth, or dealt with, mouth pain, let me tell you, it's been there, done that. And even, like I said, my little dog, I had to get this tooth pulled. It was terrible. It was causing her terrible pain. And so if you know what kind of pain having a tooth pulled feels like, who wants to listen to screaming children? Nobody in their right mind. When you're laid up with like one of my crippling headaches, or you're laid up just with the flu, you're sick, you don't feel good, you can't breathe, you're all stopped up, you've got a toothache, or you've just had your wisdom teeth cut out. Nobody in their right mind needs to be taking care of a child, at least for the first 24 hours. And I just think that when you couple everything, and how she was maybe feeling from that toothache, and like, and just the conflict between her and Danny, the addiction. We don't know if she was drinking that night. We don't know yet if she was taking any kind of narcotic, if she was getting any kind of pain medication from the dentist for her tooth. She makes the claim she went out at 1:30 in the morning to get Oragel. Uh, but yet she talks over and over and over. Yeah, I went outside and smoked a cigarette. I did this, and I smoked a cigarette, and I smoked a cigarette, and I smoked a cigarette. Hey, I've been smoking since I was 14. But let me explain something. Smoking causes dry socket. And if you've ever had dry socket, honey, that's a pain like childbirth. Dry socket is one of the most horrific pains in the world. And smoking after having a tooth pulled will cause dry socket in a heartbeat. So there's your first clue. 1:30 in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, where I'm still confused about where Danny was at. And was he there asleep? Was he passed out? Because he's admitted he had been drinking too. Was he just passed out and didn't hear any of this going on? Or, I'm really, really confused on that he didn't even know she got up in the middle of the night and left the house and came back. But I feel like we don't know how Quinton died, but I can just see it happening. Her being tired, her possibly being under the influence, and her being in pain from her tooth, and Quinton screaming and crying and babbling and wouldn't shut up, and wham bam, and he got quiet. She probably went to sleep. Maybe she woke up and realized he was deceased, and that's when she got rid of his body. But if I'm understanding things correctly, they believe that where she actually went, and they allegedly have proof, is that she went and to that dumpster. She didn't go to a Chevron and get no Orajel. um I don't know if she actually made contact with this Misty or not, but she did go to that dumpster. She did sit in front of that dumpster, and coincidentally, Quinton Simon was later found in the landfill from garbage from that dumpster. Um, I'm a little confused about their methods of trash pickup. Oh, lady, oh, when I don't feel well, my young nieces get on my nerves. I'm fairly patient. So, all right, yeah, exactly. Um, we've all been there. I've yelled at my kids. Shut up, go play, go to your room, turn that TV down. But unfortunately, this situation reminds me actually of the friend I was telling you about that had the kids that were 1, 2, and 3. Well, those girls eventually grew up and had children of their own. And this is a girl, like I said, that I've known since I was 16 years old. Met when I was 16, 17 years old. She was 19, and like I said, I already had 3 kids, 1, 2, and 3. But we're friends for many, 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 many years until we ended up having a falling out. But her oldest daughter had a child, and this is where I say I've seen this too many times before. And she had a child, and we were sitting there one day, and Diana had the kids, and I sat there and watched Caleb tear up a like plastic truck, literally tear it into pieces. And it takes a lot of strength to tear up one of them hard plastic, trucks like you get at Walmart, Target, Dollar General. We're not talking cheap Dollar Tree plastic. We're talking about, you know, pretty decent hard plastic. And I sat there and I watched that child destroy that truck. And I looked at her and I said, Diana, he's going to be a serial killer one of these days. And she said, Amy, you're not the first person that said that. And, but this child had been beaten his whole life from the time he was an infant, between his mother and all the different string of boyfriends that she had living with her. They would beat him and beat him and beat that child to the point that when he was literally 8 years old, like I said, I'm sitting there watching him destroy this truck, and I'm like, Diana, he's going to be a serial killer one of these days. This is how it starts. These children's, you traumatize. I know from my own experience of childhood trauma, what it does to you and what kind of effect it has on you, even in your later adult life. And but sometimes, where someone like me, who is like an over empath, the trauma for me has caused me to, I don't want to ever make anyone feel the way I've been made to feel. I don't want to treat people the way I've been treated, and I don't want to uh, see people hurt the way I've been hurt. That's the way my brain thinks. However, in the case of like little Caleb, his brain shut off from emotion. And that's where you get into creating a sociopath. Those people that don't have any emotions, don't have any feelings. You can stand there and just literally beat the living hell out of them, and then just stand there and look at you and have no emotion, no, just dead. And you know, so I've seen, I've just seen so many volatile circumstances in home lives of people that I've known over the years, and things that I've been through myself and whatnot. And like I said, I just hearing hearing about her having this toothache sort of all put it into perspective for me. And while, like I said, it's no excuse whatsoever to have done what she did. Um, it just kind of all paints a picture of circumstantial evidence, and like I said, things that I know and I've seen through other people that I can just paint the picture of the horror uh, that probably happened that night. She was tired. She was in pain. She wanted to go to bed. Danny wouldn't do shit. He was passed out, drunk, asleep, whatever, you know. And I think she lost her cool and did something she didn't necessarily intend to do. She just snapped, lost her cool, and with a child that young, that's all it takes. That's all it takes is because they're even at Quinton's age, his bones were still, you know, soft to an extent. His head, um, you can clearly. Oh God, y'all, I was not prepared to see those crime scene photos. Um, there's just certain things that I don't want to see, and I was not prepared to see those crime scene photos they showed today. And I wish I'd have had some warning, but didn't. But you know, and it was just truly a horrific situation to see. Um, I do think that the defense is maybe going to come up with something similar to a Casey Anthony defense. Um, I can't quite read them yet. You know, who knows if they're going to, God forbid, try to put her on the stand. The prosecution will tear her to shreds. I could tell today that when Danny came into court and Danny was on the stand, you could see her not only still goo goo and gaga an eye over him, but she was getting pissy. She was getting pissy, and I saw her taking some notes and showing them to her attorney while he was testifying to some things. So I know what she's doing. She's taking some notes and said, "Oh, nope, he lied about that," or "Nope, that's not true," or whatever. So she's making notes in order to help her defense attorney probably try to put him through the ringer. Um, he, I was floored, literally floored, when he walked up to that witness box. He was not what I was expecting at all. And his demeanor, of course, you can tell that he is very embarrassed. He is very regretful about what happened. He did, in the beginning, he did tell the police that he saw Quinton in his pack and play uh, when he left to go to work, which he now says is not true. He didn't even look. That all he was trying to do was quietly get up, get out of bed, get ready for work. He said, "Hey, you going to work?" "No, shut up. I'm tired. Let me know." So he just quietly got out of there without stirring her up too much and or stirring the kids up, and got out of there and just got on to work. Um, but the simple fact is that he just was not paying attention and he didn't look. So, who knows what really happened, but I just, feel like that's the picture that I've painting in my head is her losing her cool and snapping. And I'm going to say this and probably going to get a lot of hate for it, but I just try to evaluate each case and each situation, because every situation is different. I just try to evaluate it the way I see it. I don't believe she intentionally murdered Quinton. However, I do believe that she did inflict injury upon him that led to his death. She did try to cover up her crime and deny, 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 lie, 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 try to blame it on Bubba, try to blame it on Danny. I, you know, Diana, the babysitter, might have even she was, trying to completely deny and cover up. However, and was she crying for herself? Did she not want to be in trouble, or or go and go to prison? Yeah, I'm sure who does. So I'm wondering now, similar, like I said, similar to the Casey Anthony case, the reason why the jury acquitted Casey Anthony at the end of the day is because they could not prove how Kaylee died, how little Kaylee Anthony died. They could not prove her cause of death. And unfortunately, in the case of Quinton Simon, they can't prove Quinton's cause of death. But they believe that he was struck with something that led to his death. And then she, dumped his body in the Azalea Trailer Mobile Home Park's dumpster. And he, ended up in the landfill. Yeah, they didn't pre-warn nobody. It just popped. There was a first. It was just kind of a blob photo that come up, and then the woman started testifying that it was a tissue, and I'm like, oh dear God! And then they flashed the photo of his remains up there, and oh God, you could have warned somebody. That's just in all the years of my covering true crime and researching cases and stuff, I do not sit around and gawk at crime scene photos. God, those crime scene photos from the Jodi Arias trial of Travis. Oh, I had unfortunately had to look at those more than I wanted to. There's just some things you don't want to see, and I can handle those, seeing the deceased body of a grown man, though, than I better than I can the remains of a 3-year-old innocent child who was thrown in the garbage like trash and ended up in a landfill. That's just as sick as it gets. You know, the murder of Travis Alexander by Jodi Arias was a brutal, very, very brutal crime. But when it comes to children, it's just another ball game, and I think that it's a different ball game, for everyone, so to speak. So I tell you what, I'm gonna give me just a second here, and I'm going to drop a link in the comment section, and if anybody wants to come up on panel and discuss the case with me and talk a little bit about the trial. Are you watching the trial? Are you keeping up with with what's going on? Me, this is kind of came at a good time, because like I said, I'm sort of homebound myself. I'm not literally not, I won't leave Ellie's side, and I won't get very far, from her, because like I said, she's requiring round the clock, care from me. And I won't leave her side. And so we lay here in the bed, and we've been watching the trial and everything. It turned off cold, actually, here in Arkansas. We had it over the weekend. It got back up into the 90s and whatnot, and yesterday was really nice, but today, man, it was cold. The wind was blowing, and so we've got kind of a cool front coming through the south and whatnot. Um, what? Whoa! Never fails. Didn't mean to do that. Uh, so does anybody have any questions? Anything y'all want to talk about? Like I said, I just, I'm going to, cover this case. I've been covering it since it happened, and I'm going to, see this through, uh, seeking, in an effort of seeking justice, for Quinton. I hope that, the prosecution is able to bring the whole story together, especially within their closing arguments, and really paint, you know, the story, and paint the picture that, that she did this, and all. But, am I a little concerned and a little worried about whether or not this could end up like a Casey Anthony situation, because we can't prove how Quinton died. So how can you prove intentional felony murder? Felony murder, that's premeditated. And now you can the word premeditation is pretty flexible, because you can premeditate a crime in a matter of days, weeks, months, years, or minutes. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that she intentionally murdered little Quinton. I think she snapped and she lost her cool and she hit him, or knocked him down, or maybe smothered him, or something, to get in an effort to get him to shut up. That's what I believe. Because she was just at the end of her rope. She was in a bad, momental situation with everything. And another reason why I say that is because of something that I noticed her saying in her video that she made, where she was basically saying goodbye, and she was going to take her own life. She said something about, I've asked for help and no one would help me. And that caught my attention, because I myself, in different, in lots of different situations, I have asked for help. I have begged for help, whether it was help, uh, just help with different things, and nobody's hearing you, nobody's listening to you, and you are overwhelmed with so much, and you're screaming for help, but no one is hearing you. I know all too well what that is like. I know all too well how that feels. So, again, I'm in no way, shape, fashion, or form taking up for Leilani or making excuses for her, but that, to me, was very telling. And that's why another thing that's caused me, just her demeanor, a lot of her demeanor has caused me to conclude that she didn't intentionally do this, but she knows she did wrong, and so she's trying to get out of it. She's trying to cover it up. She's trying to lie about it, and get the blame off herself. But she is it's complicated. And they gave that alternate theory on what happened to Kaylee, Anthony, you know which was never proven, you know but at the end of the day, because they could not prove how Kaylee died, you know they couldn't prove murder. And unfortunately, when things happen, that whether they are intentional, or even if things are unintentional, and you regret it when you do it, and you're I'm sorry, but there's no undoing it. There's no undoing what you did, and you know either way it's bad, because if he died from her from her just neglect, like complete neglect, because she wasn't watching him and he fell and hit his head, or she intentionally hit him, or something, that is her neglect, so she's going to be in trouble regardless. But you know so this wasn't an accident, and it wasn't an accident of just, oh, I wasn't watching him and he got into the Drano under the sink. This was, under the influence of drugs and alcohol and pain and turmoil and controversy and bad circumstances and young and immature, and it, like I said, it's all a recipe for disaster. It's one big recipe for disaster. Hi, Phyllis. How are you? It's good to see you. Thank you for stopping in. I'm glad to see you. Ellie? Excuse me just a minute. Come on, baby. I apologize. I had let her down to get her a drink and do her potty, and but she's kind of, she's not like completely coherent. Like she kind of just, she'll go stand and like just stare into space. She's having these issues where she does that. So I have to pick her up and put her up here with me, and so she knows where she's at and kind of her surroundings and whatnot. Bless her heart, she's my girl. She's my sweet girl. So anyway, I that's kind of really all I wanted to discuss. Bubba's gonna. I'm sorry, not Bubba. Danny is going to be back on the stand tomorrow, and I'm anxious to hear more from him. You know, they've got all this surveillance video and stuff where he agreed to be, had their hotel room wired and phone tapped and all, trying to catch her in her lies and whatnot. And but I have to commend these cops. They, even though we with spectators were outraged because they didn't arrest her for a month after coming out and saying that she's our prime suspect and we know this little boy's deceased. We've got to find his remains first. That was just a complete outrage. But they were on top of things from the very beginning, and they knew within the first couple of days, and her story quickly fell apart, and that's why they stayed on her the way they did and kept on and on and on and on and on with her. Um, that's what they did with Susan Smith. You know, yes, they took her, the story that Susan Smith gave, when she claimed this black man carjacked her and took off with her car and her two little boys strapped in their car seat. They bought her story. South Carolina police, they bought her story. And they looked into it and quickly saw that the story she was giving them was not even plausible. So they went back to her and said, "Hey, won't you tell us what really happened? Because your story ain't jiving. The math ain't mathing. And we can't find your mystery black guy that supposedly carjacked you." And they kept on her until she finally confessed. Leilani has not confessed. She's still maintaining, no, 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 I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. And even with proof that she was parked in front of that dumpster, nope, nope, no, I was not, no, I was not, no, I was not. So her goose is cooked. I just hope that it is enough to warrant or a pretty hefty sentence. We won't know until like we get like the jury instructions and whatnot on all the different charges and what uh what how do I word this, what options they have as far as convicting her of first degree murder, second degree murder, felony murder, or involuntary manslaughter, whatever whatever they find uh, that they can say she's come to a unanimous vote and say that meets the criteria. What proof that the prosecution is given that meets the criteria that, okay, I think we can get her on, second degree murder, but we can't get her on felony murder, or we can get her on this charge, but we can't really get her on this charge, just that kind of thing. So um, we'll have to wait and see, what all the jury instructions are and how this all, ends up coming out in the wash. They've already had some trouble with the jurors sleeping, and yeah, we don't need no juror sleeping. Let me tell you, sitting through a trial, it's boring as hell. And I know that we out here as spectators, we get, tired of all these breaks and lunch and breaking for the day and all this. But if you've ever had to sit in a courtroom, honey, you're begging for those breaks. Here at home, we can smoke a cigarette, we can get up and get us something to drink, we can go to the bathroom, and we can eat lunch and everything, while we're watching the trial. So we're all set and fine and dandy, but these people in court can't do that. So um, you you have to give them their breaks. And so, but I wouldn't tolerate anyone. If this guy gets caught again sleeping, I'd be excusing him and putting someone else in, because that's going to be grounds for an appeal for her. So we don't want to do nothing to give her any kind of grounds for an appeal. Any kind of juror misconduct or whatever and whatnot. So yeah, I know and today was all off. It was all off leash, with different things. So we'll hopefully tomorrow will progress a little smoother, so to speak. Just depends on whether or not we, have any other issues. They've got this Detective Lemons, and they're putting her on and off the stand in different times and whatnot, and um, because her testimony is very lengthy, and there's different, I guess, different parts of her investigation where they're, they're creating a timeline, so her testimony is going to come in at different points throughout the trial. So I don't know how many times they're going to have her up and down on the stand and whatnot, but all I want to see is justice for Quinton, and what she did is inexcusable. There's no excuse for what she did. I don't care how bad your tooth's hurting. I don't care how tired you are. You know, I don't know. I wish that Danny had been more concerned about the situation, in that, he says he woke her up that morning and said, "Are you going to work?" "No, leave me alone," and so he texted the babysitter and said, "The kids are not coming, they're staying here," or whatnot. um I'm sorry, she should have said, went on and sent the kids to her. Those kids should not, first of all, those kids should not have been left in her care anyway. And I want to talk about that for just a minute. Billy Joe Jawjacker. Yeah, we're going to talk about you. um I just wish that he had, you know said, no, the kids need to go on to Michelle's. They don't need to stay here with her trying to sleep and being in pain. And like I said, I think he felt in a bad situation, and you know anyway, and you just, he wouldn't, obviously was not happy with her, and it was just constant turmoil and whatnot. Believe me, I've been in so many unhealthy relationships, I can recognize one a mile away. So, but I think I'm gonna go for right now. Oh, well, no, I wanted to talk about Billy Joe for just a quick second. And something that was revealed in court, basically, to hear Leilani say it, and I believe, and this is actually something I believe from her, believe coming out of her mouth, that the custody issue with her mom, Billie Joe Jawjacker, getting custody of the kids was nothing but a formality. She was about to lose them kids. She was in trouble. She was on probation. She had had some drug charges and whatnot. Her mother got them kids, got custody of them kids, and then turned right around and left town, go out of town to work for weeks, months at a time, just to turn around and leave them with the mother that you took them away from, who could not properly care for them. So at the end of the day, Billie Joe Howell needs to be held responsible for Quinton's death. I honestly feel that Bubba Moss should file a civil suit against Billie Joe. It's not about the money. It's not, you can't replace Quinton's life with any amount of money. But it's about holding her responsible for Quinton's death, because at the end of the day, she is responsible. She had custody of him. She had taken custody of that child and those other two children away from Leilani to turn around and leave them in her care while she went out of town to work. Like I said, this was nothing but a formality. And that's something else I've seen way too many times. It's grandma or the mama gets custody of their kids, grandkids, because they can't take care of them, but yet they're still, shacked up living in the basement. Well, so at the end of the day, Billie Joe is responsible for that baby's death just as much as Leilani is. Now, is Danny responsible? Um, you know, uh, he had his issues. He has his issues, and he sure just was not paying a whole lot of attention, but was doing is the best he could to some extent. I mean, basically, he was caring for the kids more than she was. All she did was want to be left alone to smoke cigarettes and sleep. So, and he was just doing whatever he could to avoid a confrontation. So, like I said, all of it's just one big recipe for a disaster, and that's what happened here. Is a disaster. An innocent little boy's life taken. Just seen it too many times. But everybody, I'm gonna get settled here and get my little angel here settled and get ready for bed. But I will be coming back, of course, and discussing the trial this week. I probably won't be doing it every day unless something comes up that I just really, really want to talk about. But I will, be covering the trial and going over and commentating on everything. But I want to send a shout out to everybody who was affected by the hurricanes. Um, our love and thoughts and prayers are with you. I, of course, live in Arkansas. Tornado Alley. I've been through tornadoes, been through a flood actually when I was a child. In uh, it was either 78 or, excuse me, 77 or 78. We had a big flood in central Arkansas. And yeah, that's an experience I will never forget. Um, and it's pretty crazy. And like I said, I've been through tornadoes. I have been fortunate enough not to lose my home or my vehicle or uh, loved ones in um, a flood or a tornado. They've happened around me, but I was never completely affected. Not in the way these people have been. So much devastation. A friend of mine, Tracy from New York, she's a lady that I met several years ago on Facebook who is a victim's advocate, and she and I bonded over a case, an unsolved case here in Arkansas, um, referred to as El Dorado Jane Doe. A Jane Doe. They knew who murdered her. They sent her killer to prison, but she went unidentified for 30 years and was finally identified through genealogy, DNA, and um, but anyway, she lost a loved one, and I believe it's her uncle and his dog, and they were actually trying to save people, trying to rescue people, and the boat capsized, and just a very, very sad situation. I know Robin, God bless her heart, is working with a lot of hurricane victims and stuff, and she's just busy, busy, busy. I've been talking to her some here in the last couple of days, and she's just been busy, busy, busy with, helping people doing, internet and computer work and stuff, with helping with relief efforts and stuff for the hurricane. But I just, this is devastation, like just horrible, 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 horrible. I worked with Katrina victims. Um, I worked with Katrina survivors. When Hurricane Katrina happened, I also worked with surviving animals from Hurricane Katrina. My church camp that I grew up, the church that I grew up in my entire life, and the church camp that I grew up going to as a child, well, our church owned that church camp. And so we opened it up because we're affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention, as was Mercy Hospital in is affiliated with the Southern Baptist Convention in Louisiana. And so anyway, I volunteered at my church camp back when Hurricane Katrina happened, and worked with the victims and survivors and stuff, and went to the animal shelter, because our animal shelter had gotten in a lot of animals that they had found survived from Katrina. And I'm telling you, that's just an experience that I will never, ever, ever forget. Um, and just the devastation from it, and the devastation from these recent hurricanes and stuff is just, I think now has actually topped the devastation of Hurricane Katrina, and the response to it, which is a whole nother subject that I'm not even going to get on it. I'm not going to turn this into a political tit for tat, because it infuriates me. It infuriates me. But the response by our government to these hurricanes is as bad, if not maybe even worse, than George Bush's response to Hurricane Katrina. George Bush does not care about black people. That's what Kanye West said. But when you have people like George Bush and Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the Clintons, people that are of the elite, an elite group of people that, believe it or not, Donald Trump is not a part of. I've done my research. He is not a part of that elite group of people that I'm talking about. All these people care about is money and power, and they will sell their own mama's soul to the devil. They don't care. They don't care. We've got a president who can't even form a coherent sentence, and a cackling vice president that don't even know what nationality, color she is, or where she's from. She's not sure if she's from the ghetto or the middle class, if she's Indian, or if she's black, or if she's white, or if she's what, you know. But the response to this, I think, is even worse than George Bush's response to Hurricane Katrina. Yep. It's just, and then that is where we are at now. I mean, we're at a point to where it's not even politicians anymore. Everybody is just, everyone in some way, shape, fashion, or form is out to get mine and to hell with you. If I have to run over you to get what I want, if I have to destroy you to get what I want, then that's what I'm going to do. That is the mentality of people anymore. It's just complete chaos. But if you read Revelations, and you see, you read the scripture about what people will be like in the end times, boastful and greedy and disobedient to their parents and peers, and you know that's where we are. That's where we are. But anyway, everyone, y'all have a great night. And like I said, I will be back to discuss this trial as it progresses and whatnot. Please keep everyone, affected by the hurricanes and the flooding and everything in your thoughts and prayers. Please keep my sweet little Ellie Mae in your thoughts and prayers, because I just, like I said, I know she's tired. I'm tired. And sometimes people don't understand when you say I'm tired, it's not a tired that a nap or a good night's sleep can fix. It's mental and physical exhaustion, and you're just tired. And I know I'm tired, and I know that she is tired, but I'm just not ready to let go of her just yet. I've always thought of her as my baby angel. I've always called her my baby angel. Like, she was just a little angel that was sent to me and my little girl. So, but everyone have a wonderful night, and please remember, be the change that you wish to see in this world. As Michael Jackson said, it starts with the man in the mirror. Peace out, everybody. Have a wonderful night.
What's happening, y'all? If you're looking for a sad true crime podcast, then get up off of that thing and boogie on over to the Ruby Pearl Glamper True Crime Podcast, where we give you the lowdown on all things true crime. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. Catch you on the flip side.